In the quiet suburbia of southern Edmonton, Southminster-Steinhauer United Church is at the forefront of the affirming movement in Alberta.
Alberta, I think, in general, is thought of as being fairly conservative, and we are the only affirming church in Alberta. So that says something.
I'm a mom of a gay son, and when you live in a province like Alberta, when there's an awful lot of hatred to people that are different, or people, especially in the gay community, I had this sense of justice and wanting to make things better.
We are a liberal theology. We are not literalist interpreters of the Bible.
A couple of women had told us they felt that we were welcoming, but they didn't really feel safe here.
Certainly they had had other gay and lesbian people in the congregation, but they really didn't have anybody that was sort of coming and sitting down and declaring themselves as a couple.
And were open about being gay or lesbian. And we were.
But they said, we won't really feel totally safe until you declare yourselves as affirming.
Then I decided that we needed to do something about it, and that was when the process was started.
And we thought, well, will we lose members? Will we lose financial support? Will there be hate mail or media attention, vandalism? Those were all concerns, during that time.
I think in many instances, lots of congregations weren't even willing to quite take up that challenge. I had known that Southminster-Steinhauer certainly was taking that seriously and had been having workshops and really looking into that whole issue of how the church and how Christian faith relates to our living out of human sexuality.
It stretches people to examine what their biases are and their prejudices are, and to really grapple with what they believe.
All of our society is deeply entrenched in misunderstanding, miseducation. I would be so bold as to call it ignorance sometimes. Just don't get it.
I think education is a major part of it, but it's not the only part. People's feelings around relating to gay and lesbian people are very important.
At least take the time to get to know a gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgendered person. And once it becomes a interrelationship kind of experience, it makes all the difference in the world.
You can't talk about them. You have to talk about Charles and Nancy and Dawn and these real life people who I know.
I decided to apply for the position as an openly lesbian person who was partnered. Although this was an affirming congregation, was curious to see whether or not the congregation was ready to be served by a visible lesbian person.
I grew up in the 50s and 60s when being gay and lesbian was not an okay thing, especially not in the church. And so it wasn't even a question of being able to be open or out or ask questions or try to come to terms with your sexuality. It just wasn't acceptable.
We only had one phone call in this whole period where somebody called and said, I think you should take a 2x4 and hit yourself up the side of a head, and then he hung up. Well, fortunately, I had call display, so I called him back and I said, good afternoon, I'm Charles Bidwell. Who's that? I said, well, I'm the fellow who just called and told him to go out and hurt himself. And he said, oh. I said, I don't know what I have done to hurt you. to the point where you would want me to do that. But I understand you don't agree with me, and I wish you well, and hope you find peace. And all I'm asking is that you grant me the freedom to be who I am. I'm sorry I ever said that.
There was a lot of vitriol in the newspapers about anti-gay stuff, and people like us were described as being really subhuman, so you knew that some people sure didn't like your values.
I think it's important for congregations not to discriminate, period. Doesn't matter about orientation or color or gender.
Whether it's racism or sexism or homophobia or ageism or classism, or ways that we as human beings put down others.
It was a simple justice issue for me. We had to make these people truly feel welcome.
I think welcoming speaks of tolerance, it speaks of liberalness of mindset. Affirming speaks to me of a community committed to advocacy, to ongoing justice. Every congregation has gay and lesbian people who are a part of their congregation. What becoming affirming says to people that you already know and love is that we would like to see more folk like you be with us, journey with us, be in community with us.
We wanted to know that there was a church that would accept us before we would take the risk of bringing our children there. It was as important that our children be accepted as we be accepted. And when there are no churches that declare that, it's very hard to know what church to attend.
We have a half a dozen same-sex families, young children. I mean, brand new babies that wouldn't be coming to this church if we weren't an affirming congregation.
Some who are raising children from marriages, heterosexual marriages that one partner or the other had been in at an earlier time in their life, and many gay and lesbian couples who are choosing to adopt children or choosing to parent children through artificial insemination or other means.
I think that it's a wonderful spiritual journey to go through this process.
Don't be afraid to take such a process on. Be ready for the intensity of it.
We're not going to run away and hide. We're going to live our life openly, and we have no intention of letting other people claim Alberta as their territory. It's our territory too.
To be an affirming congregation where persons of all sexual orientations are welcomed and affirmed. So this is where we stand now, our new mission statement.